Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We have an exciting webinar lined up for you today covering our loyalty points feature that's going to be coming out at the end of the week, a Saturday morning to be exact. We've got a lot of content set up for you today, going over what this feature is, how to set it up, and then how it looks and works in action. Let's go ahead and dive in. So our agenda today, I kind of overviewed it just a moment ago. We're going to start with some introductions. I'm joined by Brittany today. We're going to go through just a basic overview of the feature, and then we'll talk about how it works, how to set it up, and then how to actually use it as well. And then at the very end, we'll have a Q&A section or session where you can submit any questions you have using the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. If you have any Q&A or questions that come up at any point during the webinar, please do not hesitate to send those in. We will just go through every question we've received at the end of the webinar during this Q&A session. Cool. So a little bit about us. If you've been in a webinar before, you've probably, or a webinar with us, of course, you've probably spoken or heard our voices before. My name is Patrick. I'm the product manager here at Gingr. I'm joined by Brittany.
Hi guys, I'm the DevOps manager at Gingr.
Together we are the product team at Gingr, and we're very excited to show you guys this feature. This is one of the most requested features of all time for Gingr, so we're really excited to be able to show this for you. We'll go ahead and turn the video off so you're not distracted by us, and let's just hop into an overview now. So this is a loyalty reward points feature. So what we're going to be covering today are, what are reward points? And these are points that customers can earn for being customers at your business, right? By spending money with you, they earn points, which they can then redeem towards a discounted purchase later on. So in Gingr, this system will work on a 1-to-1 ratio, dollar spend ratio. So for every dollar that a customer spends, they're going to get 1 point. And we spent a lot of time thinking about this, and because there's a lot of different ways you could go about a loyalty system. We thought the dollar spend model, if you will, is the most equitable or fair way to go about this, because you're rewarding customers who spend the most at your business. And there's also other ways to prioritize other services and things like that, which we'll cover towards the end. Points are worth $1. You set up tiers, which I'll cover in a moment, to be able to redeem those points towards an account credit. You can set points to expire, and you can allow customers to see your points. You can also, we'll show you how to migrate your current points from your current reward system over into Gingr as well. So to set up this system, you need to start by setting up tiers. So tiers are levels of redemption that a customer can reach, in which point they can convert their points into an account credit. So we set up our tiers. Let's say 100 points is worth $5. You could create as many tiers as you want for whatever values you need as well. As I mentioned before, $1 spent equals 1 point. So that conversion happens automatically in the background for you once you've set up your tiers. Once the customer has reached enough points to reach a tier, they can then have that account or those points redeemed for an account credit. That account credit will sit on their account just like normal account credits, which can then be turned around and used towards a purchase. So that's just a really quick overview of how that works. Let's go ahead and show a little bit more in detail with some demos how we're going to set this up, and then later on how we can use it. So let's go ahead and dive into this. To get the loyalty feature in Gingr up and going, we only need to set up 3 things: tiers, group permissions, and point expirations. To enable the reward system at all, you'll want to begin by setting up your tiers. You'll want to do this by going to the left-hand navigation, to admin, and searching for reward point tiers. You can set up as many tiers as you would like, and each tier needs to have a number of points and a value. The number of points represents the prerequisite number of points needed to be able to redeem towards that tier, whereas the value represents the amount of credit that the customer will receive on their account when that tier is redeemed. It is important to note that the tiers you set up are system-wide, So if you have multiple facilities, then this will make your rewards redemption standard across all locations. You can see that I already have 2 tiers set up, but let's set up a third. We'll do this by clicking Add Tier, and from the Add Tier screen, we will assign a point value, in this example, of 300 points, and an account credit value of $25. Then we will click the Update and Go Back one page to save our changes. We have just successfully created a tier that allows the customer with at least 300 points to redeem those points for $25 worth of account credit, which can then be used towards any purchase. You will want to continue this process to set up as many tiers as needed. Now that our rewards system is active in Gingr, we will need to set up the group permissions to determine who can manage rewards points. Just like other user group permissions, we will want to do this by going to the left-hand navigation, to Reports and More, and then to Groups. From this page, we'll scroll down and find the Can Manage Reward Points group permission. We'll want to enable this permission for any group of users that you want to be able to manually add or deduct point balances from a customer's account. In our example, we'll just enable this permission for the admin group. Lastly, we just need to decide whether points that customers earn will expire or last forever. In Gingr, you can set points to expire a set number of days after they've been earned. Points cannot be redeemed towards an account credit once they've been expired. If you decide that you want your points to expire, then you will navigate to the left-hand navigation, to Admin, to System-Wide Settings. From this page, you can use the search bar to find the number of days points expire in setting. Set this field to the number of days that you want points to expire from the day that they've been earned. And that's it. We've just successfully finished setting up the loyalty rewards program in our Gingr app. Now that the program is set up, you need to consider if you want to migrate your points from an old reward point system into Gingr. Earlier, we set up the group permission for Can Manage Rewards Points. To migrate points from an old system into Gingr, you will need to have this user group permission enabled. In order to migrate points over, you will need to search for an owner's profile in Gingr, and then under the Reward Points section, use the Add Points button to manually add the number of points. You can choose to migrate points over all at once or over time as customers come in. You will only need to make sure that the group permission is enabled for any user that will need the ability to manually adjust these point balances. In our example, let's just search for Bob Ross. Bob is a longtime customer of ours in this example and has been coming in with Peapod for a while. In our example, Bob has 275 points in our old system that we need to migrate over to Gingr. To complete this migration for Bob's account, we just simply need to search for his account to pull it up. Then find the Reward Points section and click Add Points. We will enter in 250 points, an optional description if we want, and then click Save. And that's it. Bob's accounts have finally been migrated from the old system into Gingr, and we're all set to go. So that was a little bit about how to set up this system. So just to recap what we talked about there, you're going to start by setting up your tiers. You can set up as many tiers as you need for whatever point value and account credit value that you need to support your loyalty system or program that you have for your business. Once you've done that, you'll want to go ahead and manage your group permissions to enable that Can Manage Reward Tier Points permission for any group or user that needs to be able to have the ability to manually add or deduct points. And then from there, you're going to want to set an optional point expiration days and then migrate any points over from an old system by manually adding them to the customer's account. Once you have that all set up, it's really just going to run in the background. So let's go into a little demo of how to use this point system right now. The rewards point system in Gingr runs almost completely in the background. Once you've completed the setup of your rewards program in Gingr, points will automatically start to be generated for customers' purchases. In Gingr, $1 spent equals 1 point. The points can then be redeemed towards an account credit once a customer has enough points to reach a tier. In our demo, we have just finished setting up our rewards point system. Let's ring out a transaction to show how this works. Let's use an example. Bob Ross currently has Peapod checked in for a reservation. He currently has 250 points and he is close to having reached the 300 point tier that we set up earlier. He also needs to buy some squirrel food for Peapod. So let's sell Bob a couple of bags of food so that he can reach that 300 point tier. To do this, we will go find our retail item for our squirrel food and add it to the shopping cart. Bob wants to buy a couple of bags of food, so we will then increase the quantity to 2 and check him out, making sure to assign Bob's account to his purchase. It's important to note that if Bob's account is not associated with this purchase, then he will not earn his points. Let's go ahead and finish the transaction. Now that the transaction is complete, we can go to Bob's profile in Gingr and view how many points he has. We can also redeem points from here as well. To do this, we will search for Bob's account and view the rewards points section. We can click View History to load a history of Bob's point balances. From his history, we can see that 250 points were manually added to Bob's account as a part of the migration from our old loyalty points system. We can also see that 50 points were just added to Bob's account for the purchase of 2 bags of squirrel food that we just finished. Now, Bob has the ability to view his point balances and history from the customer portal as well. Bob can log into his account and from the main page of the customer portal, he can view the number of points that he has and his point balance history. This is what that looks like. Let's go back to the business side of Gingr. We have seen that we can view Bob's points from his Gingr profile. However, you can also view the point balances from a brand new report called the Rewards Report. You can access this report by going to the left-hand navigation to Reports and More, Reports, and then searching for the Rewards Report. This report can be run to view all customers with points or specific customers with only a specified range of points. When viewing customers from this report, you can view their contact info, their last reservation date, their account balance, and the number of reward points associated with their account. You can also redeem points right from this report. For our example, let's go back to Bob's profile to redeem his points. We will search for Bob's profile to pull it up and see that he now has 300 points. That is enough to redeem towards the highest tier. With our example, Bob's points are worth $25 worth of account credit. In our example business here, that is enough to cover the cost of Peapod's squirrel daycare reservation that he's currently checked in for. Let's go ahead and redeem Bob's points by clicking the Redeem Points button and choosing to redeem the 300 point tier that we set up earlier. We can see that Bob's points have been deducted to 0 and that Bob now has an account credit worth $25. Let's now reward Bob for being a loyal customer of ours by redeeming this new account credit towards Peapod's reservation. We'll go to the dashboard to find Peapod's reservation under the checked in section of the dashboard. Let's go ahead and add his reservation to the cart, and just like we can with other account credits, we can add Bob's account credit that he just earned from his points from the top of the shopping cart. This has now brought Bob's balance for his reservation to $0. With his past purchases, he has earned himself and Peapod a free day of squirrel daycare. That's an overview of how the rewards point feature is set up and used in Gingr. We'll now go ahead and turn to a Q&A session to answer any questions that you have about this new feature. All right. So for our Q&A, what we're going to do, we're going to open this up, give you guys about 60 seconds to go ahead and ask any questions that you have. We've already got a couple, which is awesome. Thank you so much to those of you who have submitted some. You're going to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to go ahead and type in a question. You're going to see some timers running across the top and the bottom of the page here. So I'll give you about 60 seconds. Go ahead and submit any questions you have, and we'll go from there. All right, we got some really good questions coming in. Go ahead and start to wrap up those thoughts. If you do have any questions that come in last minute, don't hesitate to send them in. Let's go ahead and get going. And for the Q&A, I'm going to turn it over to Brittany, and I'll pull up our demo screen for us here.
All righty. So thank you everybody for submitting your questions here. We'll go ahead and get started. So Natalie asks, can the values be set to services instead of credits? That's a really good question. And if you're trying to do a loyalty reward system based on, say, every 10th day of daycare is free, we really recommend using packages for those types of rewards. That way you can basically just sell the customer say a package that has 11 credits, so 11 daycare days, but it only costs what 10 daycare days cost. The real benefit of those is that you get to collect that money up front, which is awesome, and then quickly check out using those package credits. So if you're trying to do more of a number of services based loyalty program, we recommend continuing to use packages if you don't already have those set up.
Now, to kind of expand on that as well, with a kind of tiered point system, you do have a lot of flexibility, and we spent a lot of time thinking about the best way to implement a reward system in Gingr. And we thought, as I mentioned before, the dollar to point model is the most equitable way to do this. And by setting up tiers, you can, in essence, accomplish what you're asking for as well with services. Mm-hmm. So for example, you could create different tiers which are worth different values, and those values could be associated with a particular service. So let's say my lowest tier, for example, is priced at the same cost of a nail trim. Someone could have the option to redeem that lowest tier and get a free nail trim with their service. Or you could have additional tiers which progressively get higher in value, going up to, you could do anything, even a night of boarding or more.
Awesome. Good question. Megan asks, can we go over the permissions again? For sure. So there are a couple of permissions that are super important here. We'll find those just like all the other permissions from the left navigation, reports and more icon, and the groups page. And then the ones that are going to pertain to our rewards program are found down at the bottom. Can manage reward points is just basically if that user can add or remove reward points manually from the owner's account. So this doesn't affect if they can redeem points for a customer, and it doesn't affect if points will be redeemed, just manages if they can manually adjust those points. Okay, is there a way to turn off the loyalty points for certain clients? There is not. This is going to be kind of an all or nothing type of system, really just in an effort to reward all of your customers in the same way. and standardize that across your customer base. Okay, Megan asks, could you please go over the functionality of the rewards report again? For sure. So the rewards report is a really awesome tool for you to be able to kind of similarly to the owner debt report, which exists today, to be able to show you all of your customers and their reward point balance. It gives you an option to email them, gives you their contact information, things of that nature, and we'll kind of let you know where their point balances stand. Staff can use that if you want to automatically redeem points for customers on a recurring basis. That'll be just a really good tool for you all. And as a reminder, that will be able to be found when this release comes out from the left navigation reports and more icon reports page, and then it's called the rewards report. So that's how you'll find that report. Brenda asks, can we see the lifetime rewards for a customer? That's a great question. So yes, you can actually see their point history, which is really great. So we'll go to Bob Ross's profile. And then we'll go to his reward points section. If I click on this view history button, it's going to show me that historical running balance. So I know that on 5/28, he had 250 rewards points. So you can kind of keep track historically from there. And then at a glance, see that current point balance from that page as well.
So just to expand on what we're seeing in this history right here, we have at the very bottom or the beginning of time for Bob's loyalty account, a migration from our old system for the amount of $250. Then we have a purchase, which gave Bob's account 55 points. And then there was a reward redemption as well, which took away 300 points. We have a sale, which was a miscellaneous, actually, no, this was a redemption of points or an account credit transaction where the value was $0. And then we have a manual addition of points for a promotion that we were running in the business. So someone asked in our earlier webinar, what if I want to run a promotion for double points? The answer there is, for every point or dollar spent, the customer earns a point. And then if you want to run a promotion, you can manually add points on top of that for whatever you need. And then we have a refunded reservation here as an example where we've manually deducted 100 points from that account.
For sure. All right, Heidi asks, how does the tier handle tax? So reward points are going to be incurred based on the full total in the cart, so that will include tax. Brian asks if we will be able to rewatch this webinar. Absolutely. We'll have these both posted, both the Q&A from our previous webinar and today's webinar, or this session's webinar, to our support site later this evening once we're finished with all of the webinars. So you'll be able to watch those anytime you'd like. They'll be available forever. Megan asks, can customers redeem their own credits online? It's a really great question, and no, they cannot. So customers are only going to be able to see their point balance on the customer portal. They aren't going to be able to do anything about it. The really awesome thing here is that they're able to see their account balance, their reward balance, and then when they come for Daycare or whichever service, they can say, hey, I have reward points. Can I redeem those towards this reservation? So you can really put it in your customers' kind of hands to use their points. Sherry asked, do you have to manually add points or do they happen automatically when they reach the first tier? So points are going to be added to accounts automatically. So you don't have to do anything. Once you've set up your tiers, points are going to start being accrued. They won't be redeemed automatically. That will require that a staff user redeems points, but the points are going to be automatically accrued to the owner's profile. So staff won't have to do anything to accrue points, but they will have to do an action to be able to redeem those points for account credit. Brett asks, are customers notified via email or SMS when they receive points? Can we set up reminders like credit card programs often do? That's a really great question. They will not be notified automatically from Gingr when they receive points. That would be up to you to notify your customers. You can put that in your automated receipt emails or your checkout email. to let them know that, hey, we do have a rewards program, and kind of give them the details of that, but you will have to include that information in whatever customized way you'd like. We'd also recommend, if you're going to start using the rewards program in Gingr, I would definitely send out a marketing campaign to all of my customers and let them know, hey, we have a loyalty program now. Show them how to check their reward balance on the portal, explain to them how your tiers work and what those tiers are worth, and get them introduced to the system there. Lacey asked if points get subtracted after a refund. So points do not get subtracted when a refund transaction occurs, but like we can see here on Bob Ross's profile, if you want your refunds to take away points from a customer, you would use the manually remove points option to deduct those points. So say we refunded $5, so 5 points, and then we want that to deduct from their point balance. You would just go in and manually remove those points, and then that would affect their account balance. Stephanie asks, can any user redeem points, or does the ability to manually add or deduct points comes with that privilege? Great question, Stephanie. Any user can redeem points on an account, on an owner's profile. So it's not necessary to give all of your users access to be able to manually add or deduct points for them to be able to redeem points for customers. So you could just give your managers the ability to add or remove points, but then a regular receptionist would be able to still redeem points if the customer would like. Okay, so you must manually redeem points for the customer to get a credit on file, correct? You are correct. So the system is going to incur points automatically, and then in order for staff to give the customer an account credit, they'll need to redeem points for a tier. The reason that it doesn't do this automatically for you is because you can have multiple tiers, and the system won't know which tier you would like it to do automatically. So it's really important, especially if you have multiple tiers, that the customer indicates which tier they'd like to redeem for if they are eligible for multiple. That way that they're getting the reward that they would like, basically. Jessica asks, can the pet parent redeem the points themselves in their own portal? Scenario, buying packages online. That's a really great scenario. Unfortunately, customers are not able to do anything with their points online. What they could do there is purchase the package, let you know that they wanted to use points, and then you could back do it. They could also call you and have you sell them the package using their points that they earned. They could do it in person, but they won't be able to redeem their points by themselves on the portal. Morgan asks, can you have a double points day where you can change the value of the points for $1 spend? This came up in our earlier webinar too. So if you want to run a promotion on your points for certain days where you get double points, what you'll want to do is, for each of those transactions that's available or that's eligible to get double points, you would finish the transaction, say I sold something for $100, and then I want them to, instead of getting, let's say they get full double points. So instead of 100 points, they get 200 points for that $100 transaction. In that case, I know I already incurred 100 points in my original transaction. So then I would just go to that owner's profile and manually add 100 more points for the double points day. So you can see that here on Bob Ross's profile. We did that earlier just to double the points that they received.
So let's run through a full example of that, because I don't think we did that in the earlier webinar. But let's imagine it's we're promoting a retail item. In our case, I guess let's just use squirrel food that we did earlier. So let's say we're running a promotion where you get double points when you buy a bag of squirrel food. We can add this to the cart. I know it's a weird example, sorry. And we've got, $27.50 here. So let's go ahead and check this out. We need to make sure, like I mentioned before, that Bob or the customer's account is associated with the transactions, that those points are added. And we'll go ahead and check this out. And that's all set. So now let's go back to Bob's account here. because it's double points day, we need to give Bob some extra points. So let's view this history. We can see this transaction here. Bob earned 28 points. So we're going to go ahead and add 28 more. We'll say double points for squirrel food on the 29th of May. We'll add that. And now Bob has double the amount of points because of that transaction. So 2 steps, but very simple to do.
Mm-hmm. Barb asks, if I do not want to activate the loyalty program, will that info still display on the client side? Great question, Barb. It will not unless you have a tier set up. So nothing, the system is going to be, or when this release happens this weekend, the system is going to ship with this reward system turned off. You'll have to enable it by creating at least 1 tier. Once you have a tier set up, then points are going to start incurring and customers would be able to see their reward point balance on their side. So nothing will happen unless you have a tier set up. Megan asks, can customers view their credits from their online account? Absolutely, they can. They'll be able to see their point balance from the customer portal for sure. And that'll be ongoing. So Stephanie asks, who triggers redemption, the customer or only an employee? So in this case, the customer could come in and say, hey, I have 56 points. I'd like to redeem that for a free nail trim or whatever you have your tiers set to. And then it would be on staff to then go to their profile, redeem their points, and to whichever tier they'd like. And then that'll add the credit to their account, which then can be used towards a transaction. So the staff person will need to be the one that redeems the points. Dennis asks, can you limit the rewards to specific services, both in the reward and redeeming? So like just for retail purchases as an example. It's not possible to limit it in the system for what points can be used towards. So that would be something that you would have to establish with your staff, that points, with your staff and your customers, that points can only be used for retail items. So that would be something that would need to be manually enforced, I guess. Lisa asks, are points only available for view from the owner's profile, or can they be seen from the dashboard as well? Right now, points can only be visible from the owner profile, but we have gotten a little bit of feedback that it would be useful to see that in other places. So we'll definitely log your feedback, Lisa. I think that would be really great to be able to see it on the dashboard as well. Okay. Brett asks, can you redeem points at the checkout screen, or do you have to redeem through the owner dashboard first? Great question. You will have to redeem them for credit before you can add them to the cart. We have gotten some feedback as well about that, that it could be cool to be able to see those in the cart as well. So we'll definitely consider that. Obviously, this is a very early iteration of this system, so we're really, really looking forward and thankful for y'all's feedback for how we can make this better for your facility. Sherry asks, what if they want to wait to save their points and wait until the next tier? So that's a really good question, and a majority of the reason why the system doesn't automatically redeem points for you. So say my lowest point here is worth a nail trim, but my highest point tier is worth a free night of boarding. If a customer does their own nail trims, doesn't want a nail trim, but does want to save up their points for that boarding, they would just wait. You would just wait to redeem their points until they have enough to reach that highest tier. So you'll just indicate when you're redeeming points, which of your tiers you'd like them, or the customer would like to redeem for. Stephanie asks, can you exclude certain types of reservations or purchases from earning points? Great question. Right now, no, it's not possible to limit what earns points and what doesn't. So everything is going to earn points. If you didn't want something to earn points, you could go and manually deduct points in that regard. But every real transaction for a line item is going to have a point value associated with it. Sorry, we've just got some duplicate questions here, so I'm just scrolling to get to a new one.
So there's a lot of questions asking, well, Brittany's looking for the next one. There's a lot of questions asking, can I limit which services or items to redeem towards? And as Brittany has mentioned, it's more of a company policy kind of item there. And it's not something that we believe software can really solve effectively, at least in this model where, you have 1 point for one service. Now, if you were to set up packages, then you could limit, of course, that to a specific reservation type or service in that way. So in the current model and with this feature that we're rolling out at the end of the week here, it's $1 equals 1 point. And you guys can communicate, for example, to your receptionist at the front desk, like, hey, point redemptions can only happen for, X, Y, and Z service at this time. And you guys can use that to promote different services at different points in the year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Ashley asks, can you mass add points to lots of clients at one time? That's a really great question. There's not a way to mass add points, but what we would recommend doing is one of two things. You could either export, like if you already use something like 5-star, you could export all of your point balances from 5-star and then just put one person in an office and make them do it all at one time, depending on how many clients you have. You can also do it as customers come in, which could be a cool opportunity for you to really introduce your customers to the rewards program. Obviously, which method you go with will depend on a lot of different things, but that would be up to the business to decide whether they wanted somebody to add them all manually at one time, or if you'd prefer to add them as the customer comes in for their next reservation. Michelle asks, what happens if someone redeems points for, let's say, a groom and they weren't happy with the groom, so we refund them? Can you manually add back the points? Great question. So just like we did that previous example, you would just go and if in this case, if they used points for something, what you could do is either add the credit back to their account, just to basically reverse it. So you would go to the owner profile, transactions, add a credit, and you would use your admin credit comp to payment method to complete that transaction, to add the credit back to their account. The other option there would be to just add points back to their account using the manually add points option. So you could go either way there. Brenda asks, how will clients know the dollar value of their points? So because this is so customizable, your tiers are completely up to your business. You're gonna wanna definitely make sure that you effectively communicate that to your customers. Everybody's probably going to set up their tiers differently. So you'll want to make sure that you communicate what each tier is worth, whether it's just flat dollar amount or whether it's a dollar amount aimed towards a specific service, things of that nature. When you set this up, I would definitely recommend sending out a marketing email to all of your customers to introduce them to your program, show them how to access their customer portal and see their reward balance from there, and then really dive into how your specific business wants to use those reward points. Okay, Tracy asked, how do redeemed credits get categorized on the revenue by date report? Where would you see those transactions? So when you redeem points for credit, it's going to show up just like a regular added credit transaction would. So let's see, let's go to the revenue by date report here in this app for today because we did some redeeming today. So under the miscellaneous credits section right here, that's where you're going to see those types of transactions. And then if you scroll all the way down to the full results section, you're going to see the description is rewards points redemption on redemption transactions. So that will kind of separate those out for you, but you will still see them on your revenue by date report just like a regular add a credit. Connor asked, I noticed that the points round up to the nearest dollar. Is that correct? They do, yes. So they'll go up to the up or down to the nearest dollar there, because you can't do half of a point. So it's $1 to 1 full point, and then it would go up. Megan asks, what if you redeem points on the customer's account to use towards a $12 nail trim, but the credit is for $15? Would the $3 go back into a point value or stay as a credit on account? Great question. So once you redeem points, they become account credit, and they stay as account credit until they're used towards a transaction. So in this example, Megan, I would apply my $15 credit to a $2 transaction, or a $12 transaction, excuse me. So it would use $12 of my account credit, and then it would leave that remaining $3 on the account as credit, which could be used towards something else. Brenda asks, we have multiple locations. Can we activate only one location? So this feature is going to be system-wide across any locations in your application. So once you turn it on, it's on for all of your locations. So you'll want to consider that when turning it on, and when kind of deciding what your tiers do, because you'll want it to be standard across your locations. With that being said, if you don't want to use loyalty points at one location, you could as long as you enforce that with your staff that, hey, we only use points at this location and not the other. As long as you communicate that to your staff and to your customers, you could just instruct staff to only apply credits at one location or the other. Connor asks, is there a report to see who has points, hasn't used them, and then add that to a marketing campaign? Absolutely. So like we mentioned earlier, you'll have that left navigation reports and more reports page for rewards points, or rewards report. This works basically like the owner debt report, to be able to see a list of all of your customers and their current point balance. You will also be able to add that to a campaign if you want to communicate with those customers via email or SMS in bulk. So you could run the report, send an email out to all of your customers that have a certain point value, and then say, hey, you have enough points to come in and get a nail trim. Do you want to schedule that? So you can really customize your marketing towards specific point values.
So let's say you have a tier for a nail trim, and you want to target those customers with enough points for a free nail trim. You'll be able to run this report for customers within a certain range of points as well. So that's kind of what Brittany was talking about. So let's say a free nail trim equals 50 points. I can run this report to view all customers who have between 50 or 1,000 points, right? They have at least enough points for a free nail trim. And then I could add those results to a campaign and email those customers out and promote them, get them to come back in for that free service.
All right, Jessica is asking, can we create double points days or specials on certain purchases to earn extra points? There's not a way to set up specials in that way, but basically you can use that manual add points function when you're running those special promotions. So to do that, you'll go to the owner profile, and then we'll go down to that rewards points section. And then you could add double, like if you already had checked out a transaction that was $100 and you want them to do double points on that $100, you would add an extra 100 for the double points promotion. So that would have to be manually done by staff. Okay. Can we give points for a referral reward? How would that look? So you could do this in a few different ways, actually. You can use the manually add points feature for this as well. You would just enter in that description that it was a referral bonus and give that to them that way. If you're doing a lot of referrals, you could consider setting up something like an open line item or maybe a POS item to just be able to sell that to customers, maybe using your admin comp payment method. That would incur points on their profile that way. Okay, what if I want to give 1 free day of daycare for every 10th completed, like a punch card instead of dollar spend? So for this, this feature that we built, we're going off of a dollar spend model. If you want to do like a buy 10 services, get one free type of a thing, we really recommend doing packages. If you don't use those already, this really allows you to kind of bundle packages together for a discounted rate. So you could sell 10 days of daycare for the cost of 9 days of daycare. And then that way you get to collect that money up front, which is really great for you. And then those points would go on the customer's profile. So you can definitely, if you're wanting to do more of like a number of services versus the amount of money that they spent, I would go ahead and use packages for that. Okay. Where can I see the rewards balance on the new owner profile? That's a really good question. So in this demo, we showed you what it looks like with the existing owner animal details pages. So if you're using the new details pages, we'll show you how to add that to your views. Okay, so just like with customizing anything else on the owner details pages, you'll want to click the gear icon, select one of your customizable pages or views, and then you can edit those. We just have to turn on some permissions here. Cool. So now I can edit my views, and then just like adding any other information, you would edit the owner view. We'll edit it for desktop, and then you'll just add the reward points from that side of the screen there.
Yeah. So it's not included in this demo that we have, but this would be a content pane that you can add at launch. So starting on Saturday morning when this feature launches, you'll see a rewards content pane that you can add right here, and then you can customize the size and positioning of it as well, just like you would do with any other content pane on this new view.
For sure. Awesome. Good question. Okay, Jessica's asking, can you easily redeem or be notified of points at checkout? So there aren't any notifications for this right now. We're just going to go turn those details pages off. There isn't like a notification at checkout right now. So you'll want to leave it either up to your customer to redeem points, or you can use that rewards points report to get a list of customers that have outstanding points, and then you would redeem once they're redeemed to their account, you're going to see the account credit from the cart, just like with regular account credit. So you would be notified then to drop it into the cart if they're wanting to apply that to this purchase. All right, Catherine asks, once they use points, can you still see a history of what points they had in the past? So you will be able to see their history of points from that reward points view history section. So you'll be able to see the running balance of points that they had and what actions caused them to have points deducted from the owner profile. Christian asks, do you have a video that we can use to show our clients, like an intro for them? We will have documentation on this feature that'll show you how it'll look from the customer portal, but because everybody's customer portal looks a little bit different and everybody's going to have their rewards points tiers set up a little bit differently, we definitely recommend customizing that to your customers specifically. You could use a marketing campaign to show them how to do that, and you can use some free tools like Record It or some other video recording tools to make your own video if you'd like, but we will have staff-facing documentation that you can learn from as well. Leslie asks, what about a refund? Does it deduct points? Refunds do not deduct points right now. So if you want your refunds to deduct from point balance, you would use the manual removal option there to remove points. So let's say that we did a $100 refund and we want to refund those points so that they don't incur on their balance. You can do that. Okay, Christy asks, if you redeem the points, does it then override the expiration date? So redeeming points, if I know what this question is kind of trying to get at, redeeming points is going to use your oldest points first in the back end, how that all works. So It does kind of override the expiration in a way, but the points will expire up until they're redeemed. So once you do redeem points, those points no longer exist, and those would just be transferred to account credit. So redeeming kind of does in a way override your expiration date. Kevin asks, can reward points be redeemed through the customer portal? They cannot be redeemed through the customer portal, but you can see your point balance on the customer portal. We'll show you what that looks like here. Excuse me. Okay, so I can see, just like on the business side, you can see your point balance. They obviously don't have those actions to be able to redeem, but they would know, or they're able to see their balances there, and then they could let you know that they're ready to redeem points that way.
This also helps with an earlier question too, you know, like how's a customer going to know how many points they have, or kind of be aware of their point balance at the time of checkout. You know, we thought about this. You think about when you maybe order something online that has a loyalty program, or I use Starbucks as kind of a canonical example here. You know, I am always aware of my point balance through my Starbucks app, for example. And I know when I want to redeem points and things like that right from the app. So the customer can get a complete history of their point balance here in Gingr on the customer portal. And they can also mention, you know, hey, I have like 1,000 points. Can I redeem them? And then depending on what you guys want to redeem points towards, you know, you can obviously handle it from there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Will they earn points on prepay and credits on their accounts? Want to make sure that they're not missing any points. Or you will incur points on adding credit to the account, yes. So basically any dollar that they spend, they are going to incur points on those transactions. All right, Leslie asks, what about a no payment transaction? This is a really good question. Points are incurred on every transaction, so including no payment transactions, those points would be recorded on their profile there. Okay. It looks like points accumulate on sales tax as well as items purchased, Vicky asks. They are included on the total value of the transaction. It's not going to be your subtotal. All right, Lauren asks, is this walkthrough going to be available in the help articles for employee training purposes? Absolutely. We're going to post, we're doing 2 sessions of this webinar, one later today, and we will be recording both, and we're going to merge those Q&As together so that everything will be available in the webinars article on our support site. We'll also have a ton of documentation on this feature as well that you can use to train your staff. So the webinar recordings will be available later tonight after both of the webinars are finished. Okay, Aaron asks, can the amount be used to pay deposits? Account credit, as it stands, cannot be used to pay deposits, so reward points in the same way will not be able to be used towards deposits. Leslie asks, can it be set up for specific payment types? At this time, no, it can't be set just for specific payment types. It's just going to be every transaction in your system. Hayden asks, will the points be relayed via email when used? There is not going to be an automatic email that would go out when points are redeemed. But as we've mentioned, customers can see their point balance from the customer portal if they're curious. You can always include a link to their customer portal in your checkout email as well, to have them to prompt them to check their account balance in your automated emails. Catherine says, can you also make it 1 point is 50 cents rather than $1? So the 1 point to $1 ratio cannot be changed, but what you can do is get creative with your tier amounts so that it equals the 50 cents. So I could say, I could set my tiers to where it works at kind of a half scale in that way. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to our support team, and we can definitely help you guys get your, or give you kind of an idea about how to get that set up. All right, once this is implemented, will everyone start at 0, or can this be retroactive? The system is going to start accruing points on owner profiles as soon as you set up your tiers. So it won't be retroactive to what they had previously spent. It'll just be from when you set up a tier moving forward. So that's something that's really important to note there. If you want it to be retroactive, you can use the manual addition of points option, just like if you were transferring from a different system like 5 stars, to add more credit to their account. Lauren asks, also dumb question, but there's no fee for us to use this feature, is there? That is not a dumb question at all, Lauren. This is included in your app subscription. So this will be available for everybody to use at no extra fee. Okay, Vicky asks, do points need to be redeemed from the owner page or from the report before they're checked out, or can they be seen and dealt with from the cart? The points will need to be handled prior to checkout. So the only thing that you're going to see in the cart is their account balance and their account credit to be able to drop it in. Handling their points would need to be done before you get to that point.
That's really great feedback though, Vicky. So we'll see what we can do. Obviously, this is just the very first version, and we want to continue to make everything in Gingr, including this, better for you guys. So that is great feedback. There has also been other great feedback that has been asked already. And I'm keeping all of this in mind. So thank you guys for asking these really important questions.
For sure. All right. All right, Christy asks, is it possible to set an expiration date on how long they can earn points for, so they can't earn points for coming once every 2 years? You could do that with the point expiration dates. So if you didn't want to give someone points if they only come to you once every 2 years, I would set your point expiration to be just less than that. So you could set points to expire after a year. So then that wouldn't allow those points to just rack up on the customer's profile, and would expire those points after a year from when they were incurred. So then the next time that they come in 2 years later, they don't have any points and they'd have to start from scratch. That's a really good question, Christy. All right, Elaine asks, could you use tiers to differentiate between rewards for boarding and daycare? That's a really good question. So rewards are just going to be a flat dollar spend. It's not going to look at what type of service that they used. If you offer different types of rewards for your different types of services, like say I offer a 1 free day of daycare after every 10 days versus spend $100 on boarding and get $10 in account credit, you could use your loyalty reward points for the boarding part because that's a dollar spend. And then you could sell a prepaid package for that daycare portion. So you'd want to I would set, those will be separate setups kind of in a way. Okay, Leslie asked, does it automatically redeem or require an employee to manually redeem? It's not going to automatically redeem points. I think of this like, for example, the liquor store by my house has a rewards program, and I get $5 for every $50 that I spend. And if like they ask me if I want to redeem my points, basically. They don't assume I do, because maybe I really want to spend that $5 on an extra and expensive bottle of wine. So it's more of like a staff has to redeem the points for your customers rather than it just automatically doing it. And that just gives you a little bit more control over when points are used. Additionally, some customers might want to wait until they hit that highest tier rather than automatically redeeming at the lowest tier if you have multiple.
So an example of how you might set something like this up, just an idea here, right, is you have different tiers which equate to different values of account credit that might be aligned with certain services that you want to promote, right? So your lowest tier, for example, might be a simple add-on, right? Like a free nail trim. So they could redeem towards that nail trim, but if they save up their points, it might even go up to like a free night of boarding or more even. right? So you can stagger or tier those point values however you need with that tiers feature that we went over earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Julia asked, can you disable reward points so that the customer doesn't see it on their customer portal? So reward points are only enabled once you set up your tiers. So if you don't want to use this system, that's totally fine. You just wouldn't set up your tiers and then customers wouldn't be able to see them. Once you do have it enabled though, we find a lot of value in having customers, kind of giving customers, our pet parents, the ownership over their points. So they will always be able to see their point balance in the customer portal. As a reminder, they can't do anything with it. They can only see their history and see their current point balance.
So it's very similar to what we do on that same page of the customer portal here. For example, with packages and certain rates as well. So like packages, for example, if a customer has outstanding packages on their account, they can view those on their account when they log into the customer portal. The same is true with these reward points.
All right, Eric asks, can you use points at multiple locations? You can. So if you have multiple locations inside the same app URL, the account balance is going to be able to be used at whichever location. And as a reminder, your reward tiers are going to be system-wide. So these are going to be universal across all locations inside of your app to really kind of standardize the point system there. Christy asked, is there going to be an auto email to let the customer know their points are going to expire soon? That's a really great idea. There isn't an automatic email right now, but you could use the rewards points report and communicate to customers that way to let them know that their points are going to expire. And then I would also just kind of plaster your marketing or your email templates wherever you have information about your rewards system to let them know that points do it. If you're going to set your points to be able to expire, really kind of drive it home that you only have a year to use these, or you only really just kind of drive in that expiration date that you have entered. Ashley asks, is there a way to use this for sales referrals? We're hiring someone on commission to go out in the community and send leads our way. I see how it makes sense to do this for customer referrals, but wondering more about internal ones that are for employees. Or is the best way to do this to add his name to the how did you find us profile question and run a report for that? That's a really good question. So this feature is going to be more towards your pet parent customers. If you're wanting to do like a commission for referrals for your employee users, I would recommend doing what you said in the last part of that question, Ashley, and just adding that as an option for referral sources, and then running a new customers report based on that referral source to get that commission figured manually. Good question, though. Shannon asks, do tips count towards point balance, or is it just calculated from the invoice total? So credit card tips, or tips that are added from credit card transactions at checkout, are not going to be included in their point balances. But if you do open line item tips, those ones would be. So basically anything that was in the cart prior to hitting checkout. Aaron asks, points automatically are added to the account after transactions, right? They are. So this will just kind of run in the background, and you'll be able to see that running balance, and then the redeeming part is the part that staff is going to have to do manually. Hayden asks, would it be an option to show a balance of points on the receipt? There's not a way to show that on your receipts right now, but that could be interesting. So we'll definitely note that as we continue to build on this feature. All right, Chase asked, you said no payment transactions receive points. So they get points for purchasing a daycare package and then points for being checked out of daycare. It's a really, really great question, Chase. So they will receive points for the daycare package sale, but they're not going to receive points on that no payment transaction because the package credit deducts the cart to 0 at checkout. So they're only going to incur points on positive cart balances or cart totals. So that's a really great question. So they're only going to receive the points on that initial sale, not anything that was 0.
So to expand on that, if you imagine, you're in a situation where a customer is redeeming one of their daycare package credits towards their daycare reservation, when you apply that package credit in the shopping cart, it reduces the value to $0. So there's no points earned because the transaction total was $0 there when you hit checkout.
For sure. That's a really good question, Chase. Okay.
So Samantha asks, are points earned when you use points in the cart? And this is an interesting question. So similar to what we were just saying, the concept of these points here is you earn them for every dollar you spend, and then you redeem them towards an account credit. So when I redeem my points towards an account credit, I apply that to the shopping cart, and that reduces the total down to $0 or whatever the remaining balance would be. So in the example I showed earlier, we had Bob Ross, who had a certain amount of points that were brought over from our migration, and then he earned some points after that. We then redeemed 300 points towards an account credit, which was worth $25. In our example, Squirrel Daycare was worth $25, so we then redeemed or added that account credit to Peapod's reservation, which reduced or discounted the amount down to $0 because we use that account credit. Now, since the total was $0, no points were earned in that transaction. So he didn't double earn points in that case.
Okay, Shannon asks, can you show an example of a receipt showing redeemed points? For sure. So the receipt itself isn't going to show X number of points receipt or redeemed. It's just going to show that there was a previous balance account credit applied to the transaction there. So to see kind of the points redeemed, we can go to the owner profile and look at their transactions tab. And then that will show us. So if I look at the owner profile transactions tab here, I can see that this line item was for a reward points redemption. So that's kind of how you would tell from this view that rewards points were redeemed. And then seeing that the previous balance was added to the cart here, that would indicate that my balance was used there.
So Julia asks, in the UK, is £1 equal to 1 point? It's still the same 1-to-1 ratio. It's not based off of the currency.
Christy asks, can you turn this off for specific customers? It's not possible to turn this off for specific customers, but redeeming points is totally up to staff discretion. So if you have a customer that you aren't wanting to give or use points towards, you can manually deduct them and manage those accounts separately.
So we spent some time talking about this as well. Sorry, I'm just going to expand on this, Brittany. So we spent some time talking about this, and we thought about, well, what if there's a particular customer, right, that we all have one, maybe that we don't want to redeem these points towards, or maybe there's only certain services or items that we want to redeem points towards. We thought a lot about that, and there's not a good way for us to say yes or no to that without adding a ton of complexity to the app, which would just make this feature really hard to use. So it's more in line with like a business policy. So for example, if you have a service that you don't want to redeem points towards, that would be something that you need to communicate with your team. Or likewise, for example, if there's a customer that you don't want to redeem points for, you would communicate that as well. A custom icon might be a good solution to that. If you create an icon for, no points or something like that, you could easily communicate that across your team.
For sure. Okay, Cassandra asks, can you set up the program without setting up the tiers when we're checking them out? How our company works is we do not want them to always earn points for every checkout, but we can only manually add them. So if you're only wanting to add credit for certain scenarios or at staff discretion, I would probably recommend not using this feature because it's more intended to do kind of it automatically in the background for you. So for your facility, Cassandra, what I might recommend is just creating, maybe even just using an add a credit on the owner profile to kind of bypass the redeem portion and just go to the account transactions tab and click this little add a credit button. And then you can use your admin credit comp payment method, or you could even create a new payment method called like free credit or rewards points or something like that, to kind of do this manually if that's how you're wanting to handle it. But in your case, I don't think I would set up the tiers unless you're wanting it to automatically do it on every transaction. Okay, Aaron asks, if reward points have an expiration date, will that show in the rewards tab on the owner's profile? So when points expire, you'll be able to see, let's get to an owner here that has some expired points. So when they do expire, it's going to show a specific transaction for expired points. So in this example, all of our points were expired, so the system automatically does that check and expires those points for you. So you will be able to see that from the reward points section. Really good question. Okay, Aaron asks, if you decided internally to not allow one customer to accrue points, wouldn't they still see their points added and deducted from their portal? So that is correct. So if you have a very, very tricky customer that you're not wanting to give a lot of rights to, if that's a good way to say it, you can turn off a setting on the, like let's say I am awful and I shouldn't be allowed to do anything at all. If you really don't want them to see their rewards points or anything like that, I can turn off this allow online login setting, and then that'll disable that owner from being able to access the portal at all. In a scenario where you don't want a specific customer to redeem account points or to be able to use points, I would probably recommend turning that setting off for them.
I think about, and you know, you could approach this as a business owner from a million different ways. I think about that scenario, and this is about loyalty and this kind of relationship between a good relationship between the customer and the business. And so I think in that kind of a situation, what I might say, instead of preventing them to log in, if I really didn't, if, you know, let's say I wanted them to request reservations and upload files, for example, but I didn't want them to be able to redeem points. If that question came up, I might be prepared with some sort of statement, positioning statement around, you know, how their account's not in good standing, and their points can't be redeemed or something along those lines. There's a lot of different customer service ways that you could approach that. Unfortunately, we didn't build the feature to account for those off cases. So it's more about the transparency of the customer being able to know what their point balance is, and not for those, you know, instances where a customer, a particular customer should not see their points.
Right. Okay. Last question that I've got here is from Christy, and it says, once you set up tiers, it automatically turns it on. So if we decide not to use it, to get it to turn off, you would just need to delete the tiers. Yes. So the feature is going to come shipped off by default when this comes out on Saturday. So you will have to go create tiers if you want to use them. If you set them up, you decide that you no longer want to use them, you can delete tiers, right? So you'll just delete your tiers, and then that would stop points from being redeemed, basically. Awesome. That's all I've got for FAQ here. Really, really great questions, you guys. This is probably the best Q&A I think we've done so far.
Easily. Thank you guys all for your time today. And if you have any other questions, feel free to let us know. I'm going to be on Facebook. We've got our support team. They're all trained up on this as well. Send us questions. Let us know how we can help. We're really excited to let you get your hands on this feature starting this Saturday. Have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.